All right, happy afternoon, folks. We're here at the Peter Bullough Foundation, and we are about to go and check out our artists in residence. Actively working and live in the studio.
Hi.
Hello.
Right, we're gonna keep the camera on me. My name is Ibtisam Zaman. I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and today I'll be showing you two of my pieces that I've been working on while I've been here. One of them I started before I came, and then the other one I just started from scratch here. So the first piece is called Nuri, which means my light. It's an autobiographical piece about my migration history from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then I was in England, and then I was in the UAE, and then I was in India, then I was in UAE, then I was in India again. And so I've taken plants from all these places and I've combined them because when I think about my childhood, that's one of the strongest memories for me is like all the different fruits and flowers. And so you see the self-portrait of me on the right here. Once it's done, will be sewn onto the desert, which is where I grew up. And it's one of the many places that I consider home, but it's like I love deserts, they're so beautiful. And then the next painting, the next painting is called Zaman, the Chaos of Time, and it's a play. It is a play on my last name, which actually means time, Zaman, Z-A-M-A-N. And so this painting for me is about rage, but it's also about time itself, and it's about maintaining a balance with how you hold rage and how you hold all of your emotions, really. It's about being on the teetering edge of things, and how when you're on that edge, it's a fine line between staying in control and then letting everything ensue into chaos. And so you have the hourglass over here that's tipped, and you have the ravens. This black raven symbolizes prophecy and wisdom, while the white raven symbolizes judgment and justice. And then we have the melting candle, and we have the teacups. And so you have a lot of things that are tied to balance, and so you have a lot of objects related to like femininity and softness, but how they're held, you can see the tension in the hands, and even in the objects themselves. So they're not necessarily, like teacups are a stereotypical feminine thing, but the political aspects of what is involved in teacups, like, oh, girl, spill the tea, these kinds of things are actually quite loaded, or can be. And then there's the whole, like growing up in the UAE and in India, chai is like a big part of like my culture, and which is now spilled over into Western culture as well. And so it's also the comfort and the coziness of like being with loved ones and having tea. And then there's the eggs. The eggs symbolize fertility, abundance. So I wanted there to be a lot of things associated with rebirth. Then I have the moss agate up here for grounding, and I have the lapis for truth, and I have the rose quartz for abundant self-love, because we love to hear it, we love to see it, we love to engage with it. This is my favorite necklace from my best friend. I'm wearing it right now. I love this necklace so much, and this jewelry is actually not this necklace, but this bracelet and this choker are both of my grandmother's, and I inherited them from her. And so it's also like being able to wear things and then weave them into my own self-portrait as a making of generations. It's funny when you're painting your own face, you can see all the faces that came before yours and what it means to then make up your face. And so there's just a lot of, there's like a lot of little things. I hope we see you tomorrow and you ask me more questions about this piece or my work in general. Being at the Peter Bullough Foundation has been so wonderful, and it's just flipped my art practice completely on its head in the best of ways and the most magical and fantastical ways. And I'm so grateful for this experience. They have open applications, so y'all should definitely apply. Another aspect of my art practice is political pieces. These ones I did earlier before coming to the residency, and I'll just show them to you one by one. And this one is a painting of Malcolm X and Black History flashcards because I wanted to comment on consumerism, his murder, and how we capitalize off of Blackness, essentially, which is like a huge problem. And that's Black History Month, so I guess it's appropriate. But can I just say, it's always Black History Month, because Black lives always matter. Thank you. And then this is a Black baby. This piece is actually inspired by Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. I found this Black baby with blue eyes, and it reminded me of that narrative. The first time I read it was when I was 12, and it had a huge, huge, huge impact on the way I think about life and the way I think about art and what art can be. Toni Morrison is a huge influence in my work in general. She's a huge influence on my writing. She's huge, but more on my paintings themselves. And so, because she's such a visual writer, and so it's nice when that feeds through. And then I've also started painting a lot of toy soldiers, and you'll see them here. This is American Soldier 1 and American Soldier 2 because I wanted to start commenting on the fact that the US loves to dip its toes in other people's business and then say it's helping them when clearly we have a clear, very factual track record of doing the opposite. We like to say we're helping when in fact we're just going and we're seeking oil and control. And I'm going to talk about that more over the next year. But fund my art and I can make more paintings like this. And then over here is the last part, which is just, some more soldiers that are currently in progress.
Thank you so much. Any last thoughts?
Last thoughts, thank you all for coming and joining me in the open studio. Like I said, Peter Bullough Foundation has been so wonderful and beautiful, and I really encourage you all to apply and to engage with their page and see all of the amazing, amazing cohort of artists that they have on board and that they continue onboarding and that they continue supporting. My name is Ibtisam Zaman. Nice meeting you guys. I'm a poet painter. Bye. Bye.
Now we're gonna make our way.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Hi. Welcome to my studio. I'm gonna get up and move around because I'm gonna actually show you some of the work that I have right here. So my name is Lauren Baccus, and you caught me doing my reading and research, really. That's the main kind of bulk of what I've been working on while I've been here. I'm currently enrolled in a master's program in textile studies and material culture, and I write on Caribbean material culture, and currently have a paper happening that's due in about a week that I'm going to present. So in public at a conference, and it's on a particular costume from Trinidad. Peter Minshall's one of his king, which is the de facto head of like the carnival band. If you're familiar with carnival, it's the king. It's the head of the band, the costumed head of the band. And it was really revolutionary when he presented it, and this was in 2016. So a little bit of time has gone, but I've been really excited about talking about the work and talking about it in a kind of like scholarly way, right? In a researched academic way. But come in, because a lot of the work really started as that kind of costume, textile, with that foundation. I am from the Caribbean. I grew up with a masquerade background, so a lot of what I filter is through this idea of performance and clothing as art, but also be really important as we talk about relation to ourselves, to each other, to the world. So when I came to the foundation, I really wanted to focus on a project that I've been working on, a coat, which is based on this image of Gordon. And a lot of us have seen the picture of Gordon, his back, and it was used in a lot of abolitionist propaganda. And I hate to say propaganda as if it's a negative word, but it's incredibly loaded, right? They use this image of a man's back, no face, and a scarred, his scarred skin is kind of a means to compel people to really push for abolition, right? But Gordon himself, actually he was named Whipped Peter, so he was renamed for this photo and lost his name, lost his identity in the process. But what happened was that he'd actually had that photograph taken after he'd arrived at a Union camp and after he had run and escaped for his freedom. I mean, this incredible story of his escape from a plantation in Louisiana. Found his way to this Union camp and immediately enrolled as a soldier. So this idea of, again, in service and what it took to A, have escaped in that way, but also B, to re-enroll for this country. And there was something about Gordon that I found was fascinating and also lost, right? And his image, that image of his back was used in a Vogue magazine cover last year, and it sat with me. And not the actual image, but that image was referenced as the cover for Viola Davis's beautiful cover photo, but it still referenced that image. And there was something about that it was unsettling to see, and also I wanted to make sure that Gordon himself wasn't lost again in the process. So this coat, I say all that to say, has been a long time in the making, right? And it's just incredibly detailed. I made all of the scars and scarring in the back and beaded them by hand. So it's just taken a lot of time. So this month has really been dedicated to completing this work and just allowing it to be able to then be installed. And I've been also working that out, how it's going to be installed while I've been here. And it's taken up the bulk of my time in addition to the reading and research, and it's been busy, but really incredible. And then the other part that I hadn't expected to come out of this time was really being engaged with Dr. Bullough's collection in a way that I hadn't expected. My plan, all this is just things that I had planned to work on, and that eventually became something else. And thinking about all of the things that were precious to Dr. Bullough, and now we have the gift of being able to see and be engaged with. I thought about the collections that make us who we are, right? So as opposed to the singular items, this kind of collection of self, right, made manifest. So that led me more to this work, which I'm still working out. But it's here in my head, and I'm grateful for this time to be able to think a little bit beyond the work that I've been doing. In addition to the coat, I've been doing some quilt work and using just muslin fabric. And this fabric is just basically like dressmaker's fabric. It's very cheap. People think that it is really kind of a throwaway fabric, but at one point it was considered an incredibly fine material. So I enjoy using it. It's there's something about being able to see the weave that's important to me, because I think we lose something with the technology of cloth. Like we lose how important and revolutionary it actually is, because we're so close to it every day, right? So I like to leave as much of the cloth exposed, but this is the first time that I'm actually moving more towards covering that cloth and using it more like a canvas. So this time has been really interesting in terms of being able to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. But yeah, it's still highly detailed. So I was just like, okay, Lauren, you know how much time you have? Work with the time you have. But you can see my little bead. This is my palette and my collection of different kinds of beads, which are like my paint. And we were just laughing at me a little earlier because I've had all of these things kind of shipped in by Amazon. And so I've been hiding the boxes, but I need them. I need them, and I collect. So if people have, right? So if people have beads, they give me beads, and I've been able to like create a little bit of a collection. And they have their own story for me and how I got them and how they were gifted to me, who gifted them to me. And they all kind of go into this mix of color and shape, and some have a little bit of shine, some have a little bit of pearlescent quality to them. And I like for that to feel like, again, like this very important mixing. And eventually when you see it from far enough away, it kind of all melds into each other. But close up, you see really the individual specialness. And I think that there's something about the individuality of the stories that's not just Gordon's, but all of, all of the peoples whose stories, again, we don't necessarily get, right? Who history hasn't necessarily accounted for, but whose lives were important. And this is a little bit of an accounting for that life. So that's it so far. I'm really looking forward to talking more about it tomorrow with Ibtisam. I know that she has great questions, and I have some questions for her about her work, and hopefully for the folks who are looking now or later, you have some questions as well, because I enjoy talking about different kinds of practices and seeing what other people are working on, and sharing what I do. And again, cloth and textiles are important for me because I think that they're so close to us, and I enjoy telling that story. So that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for giving me that break. Girl, I'm tired of reading.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Okay.